Everyone, Mike Palmer from Success Coaching International and Know Your Rights Group with another very important live video update tonight. Obviously the big news, the huge news of today is that Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius has come out and admitted that protesting is in fact a human right. It is in fact a human right, and therefore people will not be arrested for attending tomorrow's planned protest. Now this is huge news because of course by admitting that protesting is indeed a human right, that means it always was, it always has been. So anyone who's received any kind of fines, anyone who's been previously arrested for protesting can now obviously very simply challenge those fines, okay, and of course seek compensation from the police for false arrest. Now this of course applies in any state, not just in Victoria. Obviously there's probably more cases in Victoria, but this is going to apply to everyone. By the Assistant Commissioner of Police admitting that protesting is lawful. Okay, there is your out. Now, he has, of course, have to have a little dig, and he's thrown in, the threats of fines for protesters for not complying with various health directives if people aren't wearing their masks, or if they're more than 25 k's from their home, or they're not socially distancing, or, there's more than, a group of 10. But of course, if everyone keeps in separate groups, none of that's going to be an issue. He's also suggested people might fall foul of the legislation with regards to behaviour and how people should be dressed at the shrine as well. Now, I do want to make it clear, okay, we certainly don't condone anyone doing anything disrespectful in any way, shape or form, okay, and certainly not to those who come before us and fought for our freedoms, which is why I personally believe that having a protest at that very site, at the shrine, okay, makes perfect sense, because Daniel Andrews has completely disrespected, okay, the memory of our veterans, the people that have fought for our freedoms that he has personally destroyed. It makes perfect sense to have it there as long as it's done in a respectful way. Now, here is a very important point to note. What Luke Cornelius said in his press conference today was that anybody that turned up to those protests can expect the police presence and can be expecting the police to ask people who they are and where they're from. Now, very important, I want to remind you, in case you've missed any of our hundreds of previous video updates like this, okay, the Supreme Court very clearly ruled in the matter of Regina v. Banner that the police have no right whatsoever to detain you for the purposes of facilitating an investigation. So when they ask you, what's your name, where are you from, do you have more than 2 people here, and is there more than 2 households worth of people here, any questions like that would clearly come under, okay, facilitating an investigation. They're trying to investigate whether you're breaking the Chief Health Officer's directives or not. Also, DPP versus Hamilton, Supreme Court here in Victoria very clearly ruled you do not have to speak to police unless you are under arrest. He's already come out and said they're not going to be arresting people for protesting. Okay, so you do not have to speak to police unless you're under arrest. Now again, I want to make it clear, okay, yes, the police do have the right to ask you for your name and address, but only if they suspect you of committing an offence. Now, if you're doing all the right things, why would they suspect you of committing an offence? Okay, if you're all huddled together, with 25 people all in a similar space, yes, of course, then they're going to have a reason to question you. But if you're socially distancing, if you're doing all the right things, they're going to have no reason to suspect that you're committing an offence. Okay, so there is no reason for you to be answering any of those questions. Now, again, I covered this with a couple of my coaching calls just this week. If the police ask you a question, just simply fire back a question. Am I lawfully required to answer that? Okay? They're used to controlling the whole interaction by asking you all the questions. Oh, have you got an exemption? Oh, have you got a copy of that? Hang on, am I required to? Am I required to have a copy of my exemption on me? Doesn't the DHHS website say I'm not required to? Am I required to produce it to you? Am I required to speak to you and answer your questions if I'm not under arrest pursuant to the DPP versus Hamilton case? Are you attempting to question me and facilitate an investigation contrary to the ruling of Regina v. Banner? Okay, throw these questions back at them. They're going to walk away. Okay, because they know that they have no right to be doing this. It's all bluff, it's all smoke and mirrors, but they expect that most people don't know their rights. As we say, those who don't know their rights have none. If you don't know what they are, you're just going to speak, you're going to say something that you shouldn't, and that's what's going to get you in trouble. Now, having said that, okay, if push comes to shove, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, you know, in regards to the police nowadays, okay, just give them what they want under duress. So fine, under duress, under threats with menace, this is my name, this is my address. Take the silly fine, it's only a piece of paper, and deal with it down the track. Okay, because as I explained on Tuesday night's show, if anybody missed it, I spoke last week about the media article that showed that 95% of people in Victoria have not paid their COVID-related fines. We read out an article on Tuesday night's radio show that showed a similar number. 90% of people in Queensland have also not paid their COVID-related fines. Now, this is absolutely fantastic news. This is brilliant news, and this is exactly what we want, okay? Because there's no way the system can handle this if everybody says, no, I'm not going to pay. Okay, now again, I want to make it clear, I'm not just saying no, just don't pay and ignore it and leave it. Don't do that. That's not the right thing to do. That's only going to get you in more trouble. Okay, escalating costs and then warrants out for your arrest and all that sort of stuff. That's not the answer. Okay, but the simplest answer is if everybody who got a fine just simply turned it over, said, I want this heard in court, and mailed that off, the whole system would come to a grinding halt in an absolute heartbeat. Okay, they simply cannot handle that number of challenges to their fines. Okay, I spoke to another client just the other day. He said he got a speeding fine back in May. Okay, back in May of this year. It's been listed for the first directions hearing. Okay, that's not the actual hearing, that's just the directions hearing, whether you're pleading guilty or not guilty. The first court attendance is not until June of next year. Okay, that's how far these are being pushed out, and that's right now before a lot of people are still actually formally challenging them. Okay, and this is brilliant news. Okay, they simply cannot handle them. So sooner or later, they're going to have to start either withdrawing or dismissing some of these fines. They just simply can't handle the workload. Now, of course, if you want to do even more, if you want to put yourself in the best possible position to have it dismissed, if you don't want to have the hassle of going to court, we urge you all to use the general 3-step process. Okay, there's a general process of 3 steps. It's outlined very clearly in this Aussie Speeding Fines book. Use that as a template. All you do is just cut and paste your details in. I've explained this a million times. And then add to that the various arguments that we've covered in a number of these live video updates before. The most important one, of course, being if they can provide any evidence of you personally being the subject of a public health order as is required under sections 117 and 118 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. Please go and read these sections for yourself. They're only 10 lines each, section 117 and section 118 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. Okay, if you are not specified, okay, in a public health order that specifically notes, okay, COVID-19 as a quarantinable disease, okay, then these directives simply do not apply to you. Okay, it's spelt out in the Act. Now, thankfully, a lot of people are realising this. A lot of people are getting on with their lives now, which is fantastic to see. But even better now is what I'm seeing is a lot of businesses are now realising that their business is not specifically noted in any public health order. Okay, and remember, the word person, as we've explained before and as we explain in detail in our straw man chapter in our book, okay, we have a whole chapter on the straw man, what the definition of person is. Person is not a living, breathing man or woman like a lot of people have been tricked and deceived into believing. The definition of person, according to the government, okay, is a corporation. So these businesses, these corporations are realising, but hang on, as a person, they're not listed in any public health order either. So they're going off. Okay, and they're opening up their businesses, which is fantastic. Now, I've heard of some businesses actually going to the trouble of writing in, to Brett Sutton, the Chief Health Officer, saying, am I or is my business the subject of a public health order? Please respond within this amount of time. Of course, when he fails or refuses to respond, you've then got the paper trail that you can then hand to any authority and say, well, hang on, I asked if I was a subject of a public health order. There was no response. The legal maxim, silence is deemed to be acquiescence. There's the evidence that it doesn't exist. Let's get on with it. Okay, so there's so many great things happening at the moment. Now, speaking of businesses, I do want to do a special shout out to the cafe that was charging people $1 more if they supported Dan Andrews. I mean, what a brilliant idea, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But I want to touch on Brett Sutton. So he's disappeared for yet another day. Hasn't been there at Daniel Andrews' press conference, and people are starting to ask some questions. There's been a lot of speculation about his potential resignation. Now, I actually emailed Brett Sutton myself personally just today, and I got back an automated response saying that he was on leave and that Professor Alan Cheng is now the acting Chief Health Officer in his absence. So he did say he was supposedly going to be back on board tomorrow on Friday. So I guess time will tell, and we'll wait and see whether that actually happens or whether he is going to be the next in line to fall on his sword. There's also been an interesting post doing the rounds on social media that's been asking questions about who Brett Sutton's brother is, who his brother is married to, and what her connections are to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So there's certainly a lot of things being uncovered, things coming to the surface that a lot of people would prefer were kept quiet, and that's brilliant. This is what we need. This is what the Great Awakening is all about. Okay, and anyone who's following what's going on in the US with Trump and Biden, and Hunter Biden's laptop, and child sex trafficking, and all this stuff is being uncovered now, and it's absolutely fantastic. This is what this really painful, distressful, difficult time is all about. It's about rebirth, about awakening that sort of starts to go into some other areas. But I urge anyone who's on that page, to stay the course, stay focused, stay positive, and keep looking for those signs and keep looking at how much is being uncovered and unearthed now, because that's what this period is really all about. Now, obviously, we've seen with the hotel quarantine inquiry, more and more people are being uncovered and shown to have blatantly lied, said they knew nothing about private security being used, and of course that's been proven to be completely false. So let's hope that a lot more of these people get what's coming to them. There was time ago that we said, listen, Dan Andrews just needs to resign and someone else needs to step up, and that's just simply no longer the case. Dan Andrews now needs to be held to account for his crimes. He needs to be punished. He needs to be held to account for the number of people that have died at his hands as a result of his decisions. Let's not forget, as I've said before, every other state had outbreaks, they had waves, and they contained them and they handled them. Okay, it was Dan Andrews' complete and utter incompetence that's caused the 800 plus deaths that have happened in Victoria since the inception of this pandemic. Okay, and he needs to be held to account for that. And I tell you, the one thing that really baffles me this week is that the one person who's trying to hold him to account is seemingly being attacked. And I just can't understand this. Okay? Peter Creglin is going in and asking all the difficult questions, all the tough questions that Dan's just standing there blabbering away and can't respond to. And unbelievably, some muppet has come along and set up a petition to ban Peter Creglin, from attending Dan Andrews' press conferences. And I'm like, okay, obviously I can understand why, Dan Andrews and people in his party wouldn't want her there asking those tough questions. But surely all those, I stand with Dan muppets, they would welcome people there asking difficult questions, because surely they would believe that their illustrious leader who is doing such great things would be able to answer all of her questions and just make her look like a fool. Of course, that hasn't happened, so all they can do is resort to petitions now to stop her from coming to these press conferences. I mean, it's truly pathetic. It really is absolutely pathetic. And to the 2,500 people that have bothered to sign that petition, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourselves. Okay, to want to stop questions being asked that need to be asked, and to stop the truth from coming out is just absolutely pitiful. Okay, and again, you know, for all those I Stand With Dan fans, that legendary cafe in Melbourne that was charging everyone $1 more for their coffees if they supported Dan Andrews is absolutely fantastic, and that's the sort of thing that I truly believe in, and that's the sort of thing I want to see more businesses doing as businesses slowly but surely start opening up. Put your money where your mouth is. If you truly stand with Dan, then say it proudly, say it loudly on all your windows to your business or whatever. And equally, okay, if you don't and you're against him, say that too and see how things pan out. If you're a strong believer in masks, great. Put that up, 10% discount for anyone wearing a mask. Otherwise, if you think they shouldn't be on, $1 off for everyone who comes in without a mask, whatever it is. Okay, you've got to take a stand for something. As I said, it's all good and well what we talk about knowing your rights. Absolutely, you've got to know your rights, you've got to stand up for them. But beyond that, on the bigger picture, you've got to have beliefs, okay? You've got to have convictions. This is what I stand for as a success coach, okay? I've said this, to my friends and family and clients more times than I can count. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, okay? So this is what I'm going to leave you with tonight. I'm going to urge you all to really just stop for a moment and think about, what do you honestly, genuinely believe in? What are your convictions? What do you truly stand for? Do you honestly believe the figures that the media keeps telling us all about COVID-19 and how deadly it is? Or not? Do you honestly, genuinely believe that masks are good for you and good for others? Or not? Do you honestly believe that you have a right to work hard, give back to your community and sustain yourself and your family? Or can you only do that when you're allowed to? Okay? So I urge you to ask and answer these questions for yourselves. Okay? And then once you've decided what your beliefs are, what your convictions are, I urge you to stand strong and proud for those. Okay? Stand strong. Stand up for your convictions. Stand up for your beliefs. Stand up for your rights as well. And please, I urge you, if the only reason that you're not standing up for your beliefs and convictions about masks, about returning to work, about the true numbers of deaths, if the only reason that you're not standing proud and strong and standing behind those is because you're worried about a fine, please let that be the furthest thing from your mind. Again, this Aussie Speeding Fines book has the 3-step process. Okay, our ebook again explains all of the background, the bigger picture stuff, such as your human rights, why the Commonwealth Constitution is still, okay, the primary law in this country. And you've just had Luke Cornelius come out just today and say that yes, protesting is lawful, for example. So what else has been hidden from you that you thought was true that probably wasn't? Okay, and finally, of course, I'm going to show the Bank Secrets Revealed book. I know a lot of people are still struggling financially. They're being hounded by debt collectors. This is the answers. All the steps that you need to follow are in this book. Don't forget, we do have the 3-book combo available on our website. You get the free tote bag thrown in as well. So I'm going to urge you, as always, to finish off. Okay, get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you on Sunday night.